Hello guys, welcome back. This is Dr Ranjith, your pathology educator at Unacademy. So we are in the case 3 of the pathology nuggets, which is going to be useful for post-graduation, right? And we have started teaching for post-graduation classes, and we have successfully completed endometrium and cervix. All these classes will be hosted in the Unacademy app, and their special classes. All of the classes will be free of course, and you're most than welcome to attend, and let's learn together and become bigger, right? So I started a series on case discussion in pathology, especially a random group of cases which might be helpful for a postgraduate perspective, right? So we'll be going to the third case today. Let's see, it is in 40 or 50 year old, I'm not exactly sure of the age. A bladder biopsy was given, right? So when you have a bladder biopsy, sometimes a bladder biopsy can be overtly difficult. So we had this bladder biopsy. The first look itself, we kind of made out what is going to be the diagnosis, right? These are the bits and piece of fragments of the bladder biopsy. And if you can see here in this piece, just a second. In this piece, if you see here, I have an overlying epithelium, right? And this might be the stroma or the muscle, whatever it is. In the low power, I cannot appreciate that, right? So whenever you have a bladder biopsy, I want you to make up the diagnosis in the low power. If you know the classification of bladder tumor, I can have papillary lesions and I can have flat lesions. In the papillary lesions, you can have normal papilloma, we have pun lump, which is of an uncertain malignant potential. We have low-grade papilloma, high-grade papilloma, and invasive carcinoma, right? So that's how we divide the urothelial papillary lesions. Almost same for my flat urothelial lesions as well, right? So in this biopsy, we had more of a blue color architecture and kind of going inside. On this low power itself, we thought it could be a high-grade lesion. Maybe in this part, it could be embedding into the muscle, if it is muscle, right? So we went to the higher power and we were kind of convinced that yes, it's definitely high-grade lesion. One thing, I can see areas of destruction, the necrosis here, and it is very thick, right? If this is my papillary core, definitely the thickness is much more, right? Easily more than 15-16 layers. So it has to be a high-grade lesion, right? So to call it a high-grade lesion or a low-grade lesion or a pun lump, there are few things which we'll be discussing some time down the road. We have to take about the thickness, the mitosis, the site of the mitosis, and the atypical areas of the mitosis, right? So we went to higher grade. We looked at the higher grade, it is definitely abnormal, right? I do have lots of mitotic figures here, and not only that, you can look at these, the apoptotic bodies, right? The apoptotic bodies which are evidence of necrosis, right? So we definitely made it a high grade lesion for sure, right? So we went ahead. There's one more high grade image I'm going to show you. You can see here mitosis, definitely lots of mitosis. And surprisingly, again, we saw lots of apoptotic bodies, right? So I am seeing lots of apoptotic bodies for me for comfort, right? It can be seen in a high-grade urothelial carcinoma, but still, we went to one more image. This one more field. This kind of stuck us. So whatever we saw till now looked like an urothelial lesion, but when you look here, the cells are becoming kind of rounded. This was the architecture of cells in one entire fragment. So we thought, okay, this is not looking like a urothelial lesion. If the same image would have come somewhere else, the first thing what we would have thought is an neuroendocrine differentiation, right? A small round blue cell morphology, smudged chromatin. If I have to push my cells in some area, maybe in some areas I can see the salt and pepper appearance. In some areas, a smudged chromatin, a very tiny nuclei, very little cytoplasm, and infiltrating the lesion. We thought of an neuroendocrine differentiation. We were convinced there's definitely a high-grade urothelial carcinoma component there, and maybe this area could have been neuroendocrine, right? Because when you have a neuroendocrine differentiation, the prognosis will be affected. Our urologist is very specific whenever there is neuroendocrine differentiation, because he's going to say that the patient might not behave as a routine patient is going to behave. We have a lot of time, we have discussed this in our tumor board. Even when we report a high-grade urothelial carcinoma, he will insist on to comment on the neuroendocrine differentiation. So it has become a routine for us to search for that. So we had applied synaptophysin in the same field. And if you look at this, it's intensely positive. This just the field whatever we had. See, there's a stromal area which is completely negative, stromal area completely negative. The rest of the entire tumor cells is positive. So we had a lesion which is very high grade, low power itself it was. So it is a high grade urothelial carcinoma with a neuroendocrine differentiation, right? So it is a good thing. Like, I want you to keep in mind whenever you see a case of urothelial malignancy, go with the WHO points. Most of the WHO points are very classical and help us to easily differentiate different types of lesions, right? So I'm going to go to the neuroendocrine tumors of WHO, right? I'm going to take some snippets from WHO and I'll see what WHO says in regards to my neuroendocrine tumors. Look at here, these are not actually for neurothelial malignancy with neuroendocrine differentiation. I've taken from the neuroendocrine tumors of my bladder, right? The tumors are composed of small cell sheets. That's one thing. See, when you take a neurothelial lesion, you can have a glandular differentiation, you can have a squamous differentiation, you can have a neuroendocrine differentiation as well. Squamous might not make much of a difference for me in the prognosis, but neuroendocrine definitely. Small cells separated by very scant stroma. Yeah, we had lots of packed cells, right? The cells have small oval nuclei, overlapping nuclei will be there without prominent nuclear details or prominent nuclei, right? As I said, it was a hypochromatic, so completely dark chromatin, maybe occasionally salt and pepper nature. One more thing which will help in most of them is the nuclear crowding and your molding. Whenever you're going to look for nuclear molding, one simple advice: please don't look at the edge of a tumor. At the edge of a tumor, the cautery effect might sometimes mimic like it's an overlap nuclei. Always never comment on the nuclear details in the edge of the cauterized area, because when you have a bit of tissue like this, almost in all these edges, what I'll see is the cautery will clump all the nuclei. They'll make the nuclei a bit elongated, they'll make the nuclei a bit overlap. Don't think like it's in sarcomatoid appearance or something, right? Edges always will be the problem. So obviously I'm going to comment on the nuclear morphology in a perfectly viable tumor, which is not a damaged mymocautery effect, right? So in the middle of the tumor, the tissue fragments, if you see a nuclear molding and all those findings, you have to think of a neuroendocrine differentiation. Cytoplasm will be very, very less. Mitotic figures will be extensive because neuroendocrine component is definitely high grade, right? And as I said that this apoptotic bodies is which made us look for more. We have seen cases of high-grade urothelial carcinoma, but generally necrosis will be there, but those apoptotic bodies signify something, there's something going on, something else brewing in the background. So which made us go back to the background and see what is the problem there, right? So whenever you see these kind of differentiation, I want you to look for neuroendocrine differentiation, right? So these are the points from WHO regarding your neuroendocrine small cell carcinoma of the urinary bladder, which can also be in the neuroendocrine component, right? When you go for IHC, we did only synaptophysin, but chromocranial also can be done, and your neuron-specific enolase, NSE, can also be done. One simple thing, I just want you to give an advice on when you report something, don't report it as NSE. Say TTF1, I'm okay to report as TTF1. But when you go with NSE, I have two things, right? One is non-specific as trace, other one is neuron-specific enolase. Whenever you have an abbreviation which has an overlap, I want you to write the entire detail. And it's always a very, very good custom. When you have like synaptophysin, do report with the clone what you're doing, right? And your batch number if possible, and then your report, positive, negative, right? At least clone is must. So we keep it a routine that whenever whatever thing we have, if I don't put in the report also, it's fine. We'll put as a note or an addendum in the below saying that, okay, see, synaptophysin what you used here is this clone and this batch. So if at all anything has to be looked for later in time, it will help us to trace back, okay, this was the clone. If that clone didn't work, maybe then because some treatment perspective, especially the therapeutic targets, will not work on few clones, but for diagnosis it will help. So those things the oncologists will be very particular on, because they don't want waste the precious sources for the clone of treatment, right? And one more unique thing here is these tumors will be TTF1 positive, thyroid transcription factor 1 positive, right? We have seen TTF1 in most of the thyroid lesions and lung tumors. It's also positive in the neuroendocrine component of urothelial malignancy. It's not going to be positive in the routine urothelial cancers or the neuroendocrine component, fine? So we have seen a classical case of a high-grade urothelial carcinoma with a neuroendocrine differentiation, right? Just to quickly recap whatever we saw, few points. Every urothelial malignancy, the presumptive diagnosis should be made on the lower power. Look at the thickness of the layers, again in the lower power. Look at whether they are papillary or solid, again in lower power. Look if it's somewhere it's invading, again lower power. Go to higher power and confirm it is invading and the stroma is desmoplastic or your smooth muscle. Second, when you come to higher power, look for necrosis, look for mitosis. When you have mitosis, where is a smaller lower layer, basal layer, or the top one, that also will be helpful. Presence or absence of urothelium, the umbrella cells, the topmost layer of urothelium, will also be helpful to differentiating my low grade from pannulum and my papilloma, right? So urothelial cancers are not an easy one. There might be lots of mimics. I want you to practice, see more and more cases, read it and be more theoretically strong. Keep a tabular column. from your normal urothelium, papilloma, punlump, low grade, high grade, and invasive carcinoma. Same for my flat lesions as well. So keep it stuck in front of your reporting table, so that whenever you cross it, you want to see it, right? And use the markers judicially. When you see a obvious squamous differentiation, I don't want you to use on P63, right? Squamous differentiation, that's all. And always look for neuroendocrine component if there are any suspicious things like molding and hypochromatic nuclei without a nucleoli. You have a salt and pepper place or lots of apoptosis. Look for it, because that might alter the prognosis of the patient. Fine. Thank you for your time. We'll see soon together in one more video about one more case nuggets. Till then, bye from Dr. Ranjith. A few things: you can follow me on the Unacademy app, and you can see lots of more videos, especially for postgraduates. We are on a mission to complete the entire portion for postgraduates, so that we'll have an uniformity. We have to read more, apply more concepts, see more cases. We'll grow together, right? And as I started with, and all the classes in the app will be special classes, and it might help you to hone your diagnostic skills. And it'll also have case diagnostic sessions for final year postgraduates, which might help you as well. Thank you for your time. Bye bye.